next, I want to talk about a little world news, right? Because we were asked last night about will we talk about what's going on in Oaxaca. If you don't know, teachers in Oaxaca have been on strike. I think it's been going on maybe a little more than I think it's been a year in total that all of this has been going on. But more recently, there have been clashes between teachers and the police. There have been clashes with teachers and the police. And there was a protest in New York either today or yesterday in front of the Mexican consulate. Just basically the conditions, the treatment of teachers and their families and other, protesters. There were some really violent clashes over this past weekend with tear gassing and other things happening. So when we look at, we talk about movements for social justice and we talk about issues going on. There's a lot that's going on internationally and what's happening with the teachers. I want to say that this might, when you had the student teachers last year that went missing, this is connected. We need to be aware of what is happening outside of our little, Bernie progressive American bubble, because there's a lot that happens in terms of our so-called partners, right? In our neighboring countries, there's a lot that's going on that we can have an influence and help support causes elsewhere. And it helps build a broader alliance, so to speak, for many of these issues and treatment and conditions. But I'm trying to pull up my notes because I got stuck in traffic. Got back here a little bit later than I anticipated, so forgive me. Really appreciate you guys for hanging in there. But yeah, so this is when we talk about radicalization and characterizing people who are other than us as enemies, because that's how we have teachers who are trying to organize for better conditions, and they're being treated as, enemies of the state almost, so to speak. They are, they're trying to make sure, children, regardless of wealth or background, have the same right and access to education. They are challenged, though. These teachers who decide to stand up and demand, equality in education, something that we allegedly have here, right? They're considered radical and revolutionary, and that's being treated as a bad thing. That's being met with state-sanctioned violence and repression. So as of late, there's been more violence on behalf of police officers toward the teachers and supporters. And like I said, there was a protest in New York outside the Mexican consulate. But so there have been power shutoffs in Oaxaca and curfews enacted, and people. It's been pretty rough. And these are people who are standing up for just what they believe to be right, just, and true. So, while it's not the same thing, we're so quick to label people as reactionary or rebellious or whatever the case may be. When we look at the basic human rights and needs involved, a lot of what's happening in several countries, including our own, is really the repression of social justice work, of equality, and of helping people move along to where they need to be able to be productive members of their communities. So that's just my little tidbit. We can go into a more in-depth conversation on Twitter about it, or we can chat in the Progressive Army group on Facebook if you guys want to talk about this issue in particular some more.